Alright, all set. And 3, 2, 1, action! This is Cinematic Motif. Hello, I'm Wanson, a film critic and a content creator, and welcome back to Cinematic Motif, where I introduce you films in Taiwan and around the world. Alright, so welcome to our show today. I'm so happy to be back on again. You might not know that I've been off for a few weeks. I pre-recorded some showcase. So a few weeks ago, basically last week, I was in London to attend the AIBs, the Association for International Broadcasting's award, because as I just told you a few weeks ago, one of the programs that I've made for this program, for this show, Cinematic Motif, has been shortlisted for the award, so I went to London to attend the award ceremony. Now, I've got loads to share with you, including what I saw at the award ceremony, and of course, I'm going to curate a little playlist with 2 movies related to the topic of press that I'm going to share with you today. So don't go anywhere, and I hope that you really enjoy this episode because I personally really like these 2 films, okay? Let's go! Alright, so first of all, let's talk about the Association for International Broadcasting's award, the AIBs. Okay, so in case you do not know, if you're a loyal listener of RTI, you probably know this award for ages, right? But this is my first time submitting a work to the award, and it's also my first time being shortlisted. So I was really excited. So basically, in case you don't know, AIB is the trade association for TV, radio, and digital broadcasting. It was established in 1993, and basically it enhances the international cooperation and also, this sort of communication between major broadcasters around the globe, including, the BBC World Service, the Voice of America. We've also got loads of different, networks, and of course, Radio Taiwan International. So if you're a loyal listener, wow, you definitely know the AIBs, right? Okay, so they do host this big awards every year called the Media Excellence Awards, or for short, we call it the AIBs, the AIBs. And one of my programs, The Monk and the Gun, Modernization and Democracy in Bhutan, was shortlisted in the awards this year in the category of art and culture. So I went to London last week, the 22nd of November to attend the award ceremony. Right, it was 22nd of November, and it was a very nice evening there. So let me talk to you a little bit about what I saw during the award ceremony. First of all, it is really fascinating to see all these different broadcasters, different journalists from all over the world. They're caring about some communal topics, but also some very, not minor, but like very personal or regional or little topics that are very interesting. First of all, I personally saw big issues like war and conflicts all over the world. These are the big issues that has been always around the globe that they're caring about the whole year in 2023 and of course early in 2024. Also, we've got lots of small issues like personal stories, and also you get to see a lot of diverse topics that journalists are really interested about. For example, in my category, art and culture, the one that won the award, I really like that podcast actually. It talks about Charlie Chaplin, one of the very famous can you call it filmmaker? Yeah, filmmakers. But he was sort of influenced by the sort of anti-communism back in the Cold War. So it was a very complicated stories. I highly recommend that podcast. It's called Hollywood Exiles. I love that one actually. So there are so many diverse topics, big or small. We're all shining a spotlight on what we think that are important to our listeners, and maybe these topics have not been discussed or, dig into thoroughly. And that is why journalists and we as media personalities are important. Now, at the award ceremony, I saw lots of my, the heroes that I in my radio dream, I saw Jeremy Vine, I even saw Dan Walker. These are very famous presenters in the UK. I listened to their programs before, and it's really wonderful. And I even saw Dan Walker getting the Presenter of the Year award. Wow. And what I'm so fascinated about was that Dan Walker on the stage, he said that as media personalities, we are all storytellers. And I was like so touched and moved by his words. Yes, I am a storyteller. I am sitting here telling you the story that I experienced in London a few weeks ago, right? So we as personalities, media personalities, we loved telling stories. I love telling stories. I love sharing stuff with people. And that is what we do. And we try to tell the story well and even tell the stories that are worth telling. So yeah, I believe that is the responsibility of working in media, of working in press. And so finally, I still have to say big shout out to our RTI chairperson, Cheryl. She's just always been so supporting the programs on our network. And also big shout out to my boss, Carlson, of course, my program coordinator, Iris, and also Jessica and all the other colleagues and friends who have helped me on my journey in radio. I really love you guys so much. Okay, so that is basically my time in London experiencing the AIBs, the Association for International Broadcasting Award, and of course I shall tell you the results. I didn't get the award at the end of the day. Not at the end of the day, but at the end of that day. Particularly that day. And I hope that someday, perhaps I could possibly get the chance to be shortlisted again and hopefully to get the award. Okay, let's cheering for ourselves and cheering for RTI. Okay, we've got a lot of nominations this year. Alright, so I'm going to talk to you about 2 different films related to press on our show today. So don't go anywhere, okay?
This is Victoria.
From the London Underground to the Taipei Metro. The people of our world are going places. Are you listening? Tune in to the sounds of your world on Radio Taiwan International.
What you're listening right now is the original soundtrack of The French Dispatch, 法兰西特派周报. That is our first movie today. So this is a 2021 American anthology comedy drama film written and directed and produced by Wes Anderson. I love Wes Anderson. He is really a master of doing these quirky little beautiful, perfectly made films. This one features a lot of great actors and actresses, and it follows 3 different storylines as this French news bureau of the fictional Liberty, Kansas Evening Sun newspaper publishes its final issue. There are 3 different stories, 3 different segments in this movies, and basically these 3 segments are 3 articles featured in the magazine. And what you're listening right now is the soundtrack produced by my favorite film music score composer, Alexandre Desplat. That is Obituary by Alexandre Desplat from the soundtrack of the French Dispatch, 法兰西特派周报. You're listening to Cinematic Motif. I'm Wanson. Today we're talking about movies related to press. Alright, so as I just told you, this movie features 3 different segments. So I'm going to talk to you about these 3 segments one by one. So first of all, the first segment is called The Concrete Masterpiece. So it follows a incarcerated and unstable painter in the prison who is creating art. And this segment stars Tilda Swinton, I love Tilda, and also Léa Seydoux, I love Léa as well. So these are, 2 very, very famous actors in the world. And the second segment is revisions to a manifesto. It's inspired by the May 68 student protests in France, and it stars Frances McDormand, Timothée Chalamet, and also Lina Kudry. And finally, the third segment is the private dining room of the police commissioner, and it follows the kidnapping of a police commissioner's son. Now, also in this movie, Bill Murray stars as the editor-in-chief of this magazine, while Owen Wilson appears in the short segment that introduces the film's fictional setting of Onnay-sur-Glacé. So there are several important traits in this movie. First of all, this movie is apparently paying tribute to print media. As I said, this movie is talking about this paper magazine's final issue, right? And while you're watching this movie, actually it would feel like that you're just like reading a magazine. And Wes Anderson did this very, very intentionally. Even the mise-en-scène of the movie makes you feel like that you're actually reading a magazine. Now, Wes Anderson uses kind of very, I would say, theatrical mise-en-scène. Like you're watching something on a stage, and then when it moves to the next scene, it kind of like flipping the page to the other page. It's very hard to describe it here on the radio, but if you go watch the movie, you would know what I'm talking about. And I think that idea and that concept is very, very innovating from Wes Anderson, and I really, really like that. The forms and the topic that you're talking about, they match each other, right? And second of all, this movie is talking about respecting journalists, like the editor-in-chief did in this movie. So the editor-in-chief, he once said this quote. I love this quote so much. He tells the journalist, "Try to make it sound like you wrote it that way on purpose." Now, this means that the journalist should create a particular writing style for a particular group of audience, particular readers. And in this movie, as you're watching different segments, I sort of wanted to say when you're reading different segments. When you're watching different segments, there are different directing techniques. As I said, the mise-en-scène are very, very different, and it indicates that there are different styles of writing in articles, and that idea itself is beautiful. And most importantly, the editor-in-chief respects journalists. He asks journalists to do what they want freely and write about what they know of. So I think that idea itself is very, very nice. Finally, this film also poses a lot of important moral questions in journalism and also news reporting and media and press, like such as, is it okay to love your interviewee? That's what we saw in the second segment of this movie. Even, falling in love, and then also, they do what they would be doing, okay? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. And also, what is impartiality in reporting, the mechanism of attracting the audience. These different topics are all in this movie discussed. So I think this is a very, very nice movie, and I think you all should go watch this movie. And most importantly, this is a very, very cute and quirky movie, because you know Wes Anderson. He does a lot of crazy things, crazy mise en scène, crazy script, and it's almost like a little craft, a handcrafted little movie. So don't miss it. It's called The French Dispatch, 法兰西特派周报. Also, the music is amazing. I told you, we have Alex on this plot for this movie. How beautiful it is. Now I'm playing you one of the songs from the movie. This track is called A Line by Jacques Cocker. I'm having trouble. Should I read Jarvis Cocker or Jarvis Cocker? Anyway, you decide.
J'ai crié à vie pour qu'elle revienne, et j'ai pleuré, oh j'avais trop de peine. Je me suis assis auprès de son âme, mais la belle dame s'était enfuie. Je l'ai cherché sans plus y croire et sans son espoir pour me guider. Et j'ai crié, Ali, pour qu'elle revienne. Et j'ai pleuré, oh, j'avais trop de peine. Je n'ai gardé que ce doux visage comme une épave sous le sable mouillé. Ouais. Et j'ai crié, Ali, pour qu'elle revienne. Et j'ai pleuré, oh, j'avais trop de peine. Ah, j'ai crié, Ali, pour qu'elle revienne. Et j'ai pleuré, j'avais trop de peine. Et j'ai crié.
Jarvis Cocker singing for The French Dispatch, 法兰西特派周报. Jarvis Cocker is actually a British singer, and he was also a radio DJ, okay? But he's singing French. That's why I said, should I read, the French name or the English one? Jarvis Cocker. Today on Cinematic Motif, we're talking about movies related to press, and we just talked about The French Dispatch, 法兰西特派周报. I mean, the music itself sounds very special, unique, like it's trying to stand out from all the films, right? Alright, the final movie we're going to talk about today is called The Post, or 邮报密战 in Mandarin Chinese. This is a 2017 American political thriller film about the Washington Post and the publication of the Pentagon Papers. And it was directed and produced by Steven Spielberg, one of my favorite film directors of all time, filmmakers. And it stars Meryl Streep as, Katharine Graham, the publisher of Washington Post, and also Tom Hanks. I love Tom Hanks as the executive editor of the Washington Post. His name is Ben Bradley. So this movie is basically based on true events that happened before in American politics. It was set in 1971, and the Washington Post depicts this movie depicts this true story of these journalists at Washington Post trying to publish the infamous Pentagon Papers. These are a set of classified documents regarding the 20-year involvement of the United States government in the Vietnam War, and even earlier in French Indochina back in the 1940s. But back in the time, the US government, particularly President Nixon, he does not want the press to talk about these things, and he's trying to make all these things classified because in the US back in the time, there are lots of people who are anti-war and trying to tell the government that it is not only immoral but useless to fight in all these wars overseas. And the people are dying, the armies, the soldiers are dying. Particularly, Steven Spielberg used this film to criticize the Trump administration back then in 2017, as Trump administration, the President Donald Trump, interferes with the press. Back in 2017, he was kind of like interfering the press, like trying to make the voice turn down a little bit, and basically Spielberg using this movie to call for press freedom. And I think that idea itself, there is a meaning behind the movie. So let's talk about some of the major things in this movie. First of all, in this movie, we get to see that for these journalists, particularly the boss, the Kay Graham, the Catherine, the female boss, Meryl Streep stars in this movie, she was struggling all the time. She's always thinking about should we do it? Not just her, but also the whole management group and the editorial group. They've been always thinking about, should we do it? There are many struggles, but for her, when it comes to dying people, we should do it because there are people dying, Americans dying overseas fighting these wars. And also in this movie, we get to see not only their decision-making process, but also how Catherine transforms from, because this is actually not directly her newspaper. She got this newspaper company from her husband, who has died. So she was originally more of like, a rich woman having a good time every day. But she starts to think about the virtue of journalism, what she should do as press. That idea itself is beautiful. And as in almost all Steven Spielberg's movie, the shots in this movie last really, really long. And that is a very iconic trait of Spielberg. And it also helps Spielberg to express his really nice mise-en-scène ability in this movie. I really like a quote from this movie from Kay Graham, the boss. She said, "Do you know what my husband said about the news? He called it the first rough draft of history. As media personalities, we are making history." I saw a newborn baby with wild wolves. That's all for our show today. As always, if you've got any requests or feedback, send your email to wanson@rti.org.tw. Final song for you today is Bob Dylan and A Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall. This track was featured and used in the movie The Post, 邮报密战, the final movie that we just talked about. And this song was actually released in 1962 in response of the Cuban Missile Crisis. So really, these topics echoes with each other. This has been Cinematic Motif. Thank you for tuning in. I'm back next week. Bye-bye.
I saw guns and sharp swords in the hands of young children. And it's a hard rain they're gonna fall. What did you hear, my blue-eyed son? And what did you hear, my darling young one? I heard the sound of a thunder that roared out a warning. I heard the roar of a wave that could drown the whole world. I heard 100 drummers whose hands were ablazing. I heard 10,000 whispering and nobody listening. I heard one person starve, I heard many people laughing. I heard the song of a poet who died in the gutter. I heard the sound of a clown